Hello, my name's Olurotimi Osha. I normally like talking about American presidents, and today I'm going to be pivoting, switching gears, and talking about the classics, which our founding fathers, uh, you know, were were students of, our founding presidents, and those who didn't become president, like Alexander Hamilton, who was a founding father. They James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams were students of the classics, and of course, you could see the Constitution and the Republic they gave us is kind of classical. Even our buildings, the Capitol, and whatnot. In any event, our founding fathers will be proud of the direction Americans seem to be taking via the lens of Hollywood in our newly found uh, love of the classics. I understand there's a bit of controversy um, over the casting of one of my favorite actresses, Lupita Nyong'o, who is African like me. Um, and she's been being cast in the role of Helen of Troy in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I've done videos in which I talk about the Odyssey, and today I'm going to talk about the protagonist of the Odyssey, Odysseus of the nimble wits, Odysseus. There's no controversy regarding the casting of um, one of my favorite actors, Matt Damon, as Odysseus of the nimble wits. I think I'm kind of pleased with that, and amused as well, because Matt Damon apparently has acquired the wizened pulchritude of Odysseus of the Nimblewits. I keep saying Odysseus of the Nimblewits because that's what he's actually called in the Odyssey. And it's funny that there's controversy over the casting of Lupita, of course, because she's an African woman, a black woman, as Helen of Troy. Again, the Odyssey. It's part of Greek mythology, right? It's not actually because they're talking about Zeus. She's a daughter of Zeus, who was actually you know Zeus impregnated her mother, disguised in his manifestation as a swan, and she was hatched. Uh, she, well, she hatched, or she was birthed through an egg, right? So it's something that you one has to also realize is so the Greek gods took many different features, right? So in fact, in the Odyssey, you will find that Athena, the goddess, the she actually changes the appearance of Odysseus, right? She changes the appearance of Odysseus, makes him look like an old beggar, and she changed his physical appearance so that his wife, his family could not recognize him. So, uh, if Helen of Troy was a daughter of Zeus, she could have appeared in any number of ways, right? She could have manifested in any number of ways. It's interesting that Zendaya is black as well, and she's going to be playing the role of Athena, and I haven't seen much controversy over that. But in any event, Christopher Nolan's the director, and I think in Hollywood and in the arts, we should leave the work of creation and the mind of the artist. We should give them their liberty to do what they do best, to create and to interpret things as their mind sees things, as they see, perceive um, their art, and it's up to the audience to appreciate it. But enough said. What I want to do today is discuss Odysseus in another Greek tragedy, in a tragedy drama, another drama. This is a tragedy, Ajax, right? Because I'm going to be discussing in another video how the CIA channeled this Greek tragedy, Ajax, in the naming, right? The naming of the first CIA led coup d'etat in a foreign land, Operation Ajax. So, Ajax was a Greek warrior, right? He was a Greek warrior, a Greek hero, and he gets upset. It starts off, he gets upset because he's the armor of Achilles, who was like the most legendary of the Greek warriors. Like nobody was like Achilles. Achilles had died, of course, in the siege on Troy, but his armor went. His armor was was given uh, to Odysseus, right? And Ajax felt scorned. He felt envious, jealous, and so he planned to murder, to kill Odysseus and the other Greek kings, uh, Agamemnon and Menelaus, while they were in their tents. But Athena, who is, goddess of war and wisdom, right? She's goddess of war and wisdom, and she likes to play tricks. One of the things she does is, she's a goddess of military strategy and the intellect. That's why she's goddess of wisdom. She favors Odysseus, and so you see, she's the driving force in Odysseus's successes in the Odyssey. You'll see that later on. So she had a hand. She had something to do with, of course, Odysseus big, acquiring the armor of Achilles, and now she knew uh, that Ajax was vengeful, and he was jealous, and he was trying to kill Odysseus, and so she drove him mad. She drove Ajax mad and made him delusional. Right? She drove him mad, and so he assumes the livestock. Right? The animals are actually, um, you know, men are Odysseus and the Greek kings and their men, and so he's slaughtering them in this frenzy. He's killing them, torturing them to death, and everything. His mistress, uh, his mistress, uh, Tecmessa, sees him. Right, she's his wife, his mistress. They have a child together, Ulysses. Right, so she sees him in this frenzy. Right, he's going mad, he's going crazy, and he's like lost, he's delusional, he's like in his the psych today they'd call it a psychosis, like he has a psychotic episode. He doesn't know he doesn't know what's going on. He's in his own world, and he's torturing these animals. But he thinks what he's seeing is he's seeing Odysseus and all these his enemies, the Greeks kings and their men. He thinks it's them, and he's killing them. Eventually, that's because Athena has driven him crazy. She's created that fantasy, right? And he's slaughtering the animals, and his wild, mad frenzy. Eventually, when he comes around, when his sanity is restored, and his wife tells him what he's done, that he actually was slaughtering the animals. That it's the animals he slaughtered, and when word gets out to Agamemnon and Menelaus that he was actually really trying to kill them. Um, you know, of course, uh, there's a there's an issue, right? They're in a quagmire, and so uh, Ajax was now, of course, highly was humiliated. He was felt ashamed, and he felt the only way he could restore his honor was to commit suicide. And so, but of course, his wife tries to talk him out of it, and that he should stay, and so that they could take care of their son Ulysses together. So he gives this deceptive speech, and this is very important. He gives a deceptive speech. So the play is remarkable for a lot of its double meanings, and so he gives this deceptive speech. And let me quickly point this out. So, um, the of course the playwright is um, is Sophocles, right? And Sophocles created the play on a stage, right? He created the drama, the tragedy to be performed on a stage, and he used it in a competition, right? The Greeks had these competitive festivals in which dramatists, playwrights, they present these competitive performances and dramas, and so that was what he created it for the festival of Dionysia, right? So he created it for effect on a stage. So the audience is deceived by the speech of Ajax, right? And in which he seems like, okay, he's changed his mind. He's not going to kill himself, and he's just going to accept um, whatever decree, whatever consequences meted out by Agamemnon and Menelaus, and he's going to stay with his family regardless, right? But he ends up committing suicide on stage, and so it shocks the audience, and so it's supposed to be shocking. So he commits suicide. Now, after he commits suicide, his half brother uh, Teucer wants to bury him, but Agamemnon and Menelaus, get in a conflict with Teucer because they think he doesn't deserve an honorable burial, and so they don't want to give him an honorable burial. However, uh, Odysseus comes, and Odysseus is known to be very reasonable, very wise, and so he prevails on them. Uh, that they should give him a fitting burial because he was a Greek hero, he was a war hero, and he came on his own accord to help them, despite the tragic circumstance, the moral uh, failing, which he was able to argue that it was reasonable because he was hurt, um, and eventually, of course, he's able to prevail. That's Odysseus is able to prevail uh, on Agamemnon, to uh, for Ajax to have an honorable burial. So it's kind of interesting. You can see a contrast. So Agamemnon, sorry, not Agamemnon. Agamemnon, yes, in a way, but importantly, Ajax. Ajax represented a rigid honor code, a very old, rigid honor code, while Odysseus, in his flexibility, in his um, uh, in his empathy, he shows a change from the old Greek warrior honor code, right? And his reason his reasonableness shows the appeal of modern Athenian democracy, modern Greek democracy, um, and sort of a moral flexibility. Even though uh, uh, and not being rigid, right? Even though Ajax had been, you know, construed, he'd positioned himself as an enemy and a villain, but uh, Odysseus was able to counter and show more empathy and more uh, an appeal to human frailty and empathize with that. So you see something that's very significant. So this is something I want to draw out in my analogy, the analogy I'm going to be doing uh, with regard to how the CIA channeled this Greek tragedy in the naming of Operation Ajax. There's a reason why I'm doing it because um, it said that the CIA named Operation Ajax after the cleaning detergents in order to purify Iran, which, of course, is bunk. Given I will discuss this later on in the video, but given the atrocities that the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi committed with the help of the U.S. intelligence in imposing a ruthless dictatorship in Iran, which was eventually overthrown in 1979 in the Iranian Revolution, which brought in, of course, the Ayatollahs. Um, in any event, this is what I just wanted to point out. I thought it was interesting that people are interested in the Odyssey, the Greek classics, and I thought I should just discuss Ajax, in which the protagonist in the Odyssey, that's Odysseus, features as well. Is a strong character um, in Ajax as well, which was a drama, a tragedy called a tragedy, uh, um, written by the Greek general. He was actually a general and the poet. That's Sophocles. Around this was about 442, 441 BC. My name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted.